Good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. This video is not financial advice. I'm a financial advisor. Do your own research, make your own decisions. Okay, guys, welcome back. So this video is going to be about the dead internet theory, Web 2, Web 3, all the problems with Web 2, and how there's no shared reality. There's no universal set of laws, standards, logic on Web 2. It's pretty much just anything goes, and it's leading to societal and cultural collapse across the world from what I can see, and or at least the perception of societal collapse. So that's what I'm going to be going over in this video, and it will kind of be about multiple different topics kind of fused together, and I'll probably do at least one or two more videos about this general topic moving forward. But if we just talk about the Web 2 experience, which is getting worse day by day, and I wanted to go, this might actually turn into a rant before I get into the video, but when I was trying to find it's getting so frustrating when I'm on Web 2 trying to find anything that is of substance. And it's like I have to comb through so much trash just to get to some conversation where a normal person is having a important conversation that has any degree of substance to it, right? And so I wanted to look up, this was earlier today, and just to see if other people are covering this general topic, which they are in some ways, but to see if they have a perspective that might give me any more ideas, right? And so this was one of the first videos that popped up. Now, these guys have a large YouTube channel. I think they've been on YouTube for a long time. And this video said the web is going to die. So I clicked on it. Unfortunately, it's only 5 minutes long. I didn't get all the way to the end of it because it's just more trash. Okay. The first 2 minutes, I'm sitting here like looking at my phone in my car, like yelling at my phone. What the fuck are they talking about? Because they were trying to make some comparison about old dying towns in the US. And I get it, okay? And it's like it was a well done video from a production level, but no substance. What like I wondered, I had to go back and check the title of this video a couple minutes in because I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? Because they were walking through these old ghost towns in the US and they were making the comparison to the web and a lot of different sites and applications and channels and so on and so. But it's just more noise. It's just more noise, more trash, more nothing, no substance. See what I was looking for is a conversation about why the web is broken, why the web is dying, the specific problems, the substance, and what's the solution. None of that's here, okay? And so, but it's like the web is just becoming filled with trash. It doesn't matter which platform you go to. And I'm finding myself, again, this is going to turn into, I'm just going to have, this is my opening. My opening is going to be a little bit of a mini rant, but on YouTube, I'm finding myself listening to more AI generated content. It's actually, it has more substance sometimes than human generated content. And, anyways, we'll get into this. And a lot of it comes down to incentives, and creators are incentivized for bullshit. If you promote, and if bullshit and degeneracy is going viral, then that's going to incentivize other people to create more bullshit and degeneracy, and it's just going to perpetuate the cycle. And that's kind of where we are right now. And so you have more and more and more trash information and content filling up the entire social media universe, and it's getting impossible to find, the chart, and I should have actually had this up, but I did post this not too long ago. And you can Google this. It's actually an important chart to look at. It's very relevant to the future of everything. But data year over year, the total amount of data being generated year over year, and it's just going parabolic, right? But if you think about signal, if you think about overall data, the signal in that data is a very, very, very small percentage. Let's just say it's 1%. But the signal, the amount of signal doesn't really change that much year over year. But the overall amount of data, the point that I'm making is that there's more and more and more noise and nonsense filling up the web every year while the signal relatively stays the same. So it's only getting harder and harder to find quality information year over year because of all the new data and content that's being produced, especially now with artificial intelligence. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, this is talking about the Web 2 experience, which is trash. No ownership, no security, no privacy, no clue if you're being deliberately propagandized. So there's no transparency either. And I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say we are being deliberately propagandized. I think it's just a matter of to what degree, about which topics, and where is it coming from. But no one wants to see tons of spam, but yet we're forced to see it anyways. A lot of times on X, I spend most of my day muting accounts. I get hit with different waves of just trash that has nothing to do with anything that I'm interested in, right? Even despite muting different words and everything else. No one wants to search for hours just to find decent content. And no one wants to be bombarded with tons of psyops as they overtake the entire social media feed. Twitter is famous for this. Okay. And Twitter really is the greatest example to highlight what's wrong with the web, especially crypto Twitter. But anytime there is a new psyop, some new trending, and most, in my personal opinion, but all right, so it's my opinion that most major trending stories are manufactured. But what's not my opinion is that almost all major trending stories very easily could be manufactured and socially engineered to be the main conversation. That could all be manufactured behind the scenes. Okay. Do I have the hard concrete evidence that every single one is? No. And I would never have that evidence because the institutions that run these platforms would have to just come out and be honest about it. And they're never going to do that. But nobody wants to be bombarded with tons of psyops as they overtake the entire social media feed. No one wants to wonder whether they're talking to a real person or a bot. And one trending story after another filling the feed, guiding the conversation and the mind share, and creating the perception in people's minds of what's important. And I'm going to get into the biggest misconception really on earth at this point. And I'm just going to go ahead and get into it now because if not, I might forget it, even though I think I have it in a later slide. One of the biggest misconceptions, and I've been over this before, but I can't overstate this. I really can't overstate this. And the same mindset takes place when people are watching the mainstream media. Same concept applies on the internet. It's just worse on the internet because people think it's organic. But people believe that whatever is getting the most attention, whatever is getting the most reach, the most engagement, whatever is trending are the most important things happening because obviously they're the most important things. That's why everybody's talking about them. This is the most harmful preconceived notion that people have, and you will be propagandized into the shadow realm. You will be psyoped into oblivion if you never like snap out of that. Like for the most part, the main things that are being pushed out into your face that are going viral, those are the psyops. Those are the distractions. Those aren't the most important things. Those are the things that distract people from the most important things because the very platforms that they're going viral on are heavily centralized and managed and controlled by a very small number of people. So again, one trending story after another, filling the feed, guiding the conversation in the mind share. What's important can be 100% manufactured. So you can entirely socially engineer society and culture just by having a medium or a web where there's so many opportunities to manipulate large percentages of people, large numbers of people. And trash being promoted leads to more trash. Putting out propaganda and psyops as the main trending stories. Well, what are content creators going to do? Oh, this is a trending story, so I got to cover it. And then they all start covering it. And then it just leads to the mass, the proliferation of trash because the incentive structure is entirely screwed up on Web2. So 3,000 people, and it's probably less than this. So let's just talk about the institutions that really control most of the systems that power the web that we all use. 3,000 people or less can control and manipulate the online experience. And when I say online experience, this becomes people's reality. Think about how many people are saying things like, culture, the decay of culture in society, and society and culture are breaking down. But that's based on their perception and their experience on the internet, right? So 3,000 people can control, manipulate the online experience, which becomes their reality, which becomes people's reality. A lot of times people they can't separate, and this is what we're going to get to into in a second, is the digital world and the physical world. And think about like why people tell others to go touch grass. They tell them, get off the internet, go get back in touch with like the physical world, with nature, because it kind of helps reorient people and bring them back to a place of stability. But that's because the physical world is governed by a universal set of laws. We all, gravity applies to everybody equally, right? And so physics, if you think about physics, kind of like a shared network state for the physical world, just think with that concept as we go throughout the rest of the video. I'll come back to this. I'll come back to this, but let me just back up really quick. So again, 3,000 people can control and manipulate the reality of 3 billion people, which is insane. And so when we're interacting with each other on Web 2, it's like this black box that can easily be manipulated, and things can be guided in certain directions based on special interests where we have no transparency into what's going on, or if anything is going on, if we're being manipulated, if we're being propagandized, so on and so forth. But in the future, it's all going to be based on verifiable math and full ownership, full security, full transparency. Now, getting into the next part of the conversation. So to separate, think about the way that we experience reality. For the most part, we'll take out the spiritual out of it, okay, for the sake of this conversation. So we're going to talk about the physical universe and the digital universe, because I feel like most people experience reality primarily through those two different universes, okay? So humans experience reality through the physical universe and the digital universe. The physical universe is governed by the laws of physics, and they apply to everyone. Because we're all operating under universal laws in the physical universe, this creates a level of predictability, stability, certainty, and balance. And to whatever degree, all else being equal, it creates a degree of equality. Like if you could fly faster than the fastest jet, and nobody else could, that would kind of create an imbalance. Let's just say a few thousand people had that ability and they were flying around like superheroes. It would create a lot of instability in our reality, right? But we don't have that. There's universal laws, a shared network state called physics that applies to everybody on Earth, okay? And this creates balance. It creates certainty, stability, predictability. If you jump off a building, everybody knows what's going to happen, right? Every single person all over for the most part, unless there's some mental issues going on, if you jump off of a building, especially if it's high enough, everybody knows what's going to happen. There's no wondering. There's no like, oh, today it might be one way and tomorrow it might be the next day. It doesn't matter if it was last year, like 10 years ago, 100 years ago. Everybody knows what's going to happen if they jump off a building, because the laws of physics are universal to everybody. There's a shared network state in the physical universe. Nothing like this exists in the digital universe. It's anything goes. And so that's how you get so many fragmented realities where people just believe drastically different things despite facts, evidence, and data, because there's so much manipulation happening in the digital world, which affects people's perception of reality. It affects their reality. Okay, so if this was a simulation, so just think in the terms of this being a simulation, the laws of physics could be considered the code or logic of the physical universe. Laws that apply to all people in the simulation, universe, or world, and think of it like a shared network state. Similar to how consensus, like ICP, the truth layer, built-in verifiability, ownership, consensus. Think about that as and everything being in canisters, so there's not a bunch of different fragmented systems, that being a shared network state, similar to how physics creates a shared network state in the physical world. So, thought experiment. So really kind of have to put yourself in this mindset. Imagine if the physical universe wasn't governed by universal laws that apply to everyone. Let's say that gravity worked differently for different people or in different areas of the world, right? Think about how insane this would be and how much instability this would create if gravity worked differently in different parts, like much differently in different parts of the world. Okay, I get elevation and everything else. Okay. Or if the laws of physics didn't apply to some, that we had like a few thousand people that could just move faster than the fastest jet, this would create a lot of instability in our day-to-day life and a lot of unpredictability. You're going through your day. Let's just say it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And again, you kind of have to put yourself in this mindset. It's a crazy thought experiment, but it highlights why things look so unstable in the digital universe is because there's no universal set of laws. There is no truth. There is no verifiability. So you're going throughout your day, and let's just say it's like 3 p.m. and you've done a lot of, you got up early that morning, you got up at like 6 a.m., you did a lot of things throughout your day. And let's say that you're getting off work at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? But then all of a sudden, randomly, when you get off work, there's like a rewind button that happens and you suddenly go right back to the beginning of your day at work, but you remember everything that you just did, but it's like your physical reality, your physical world gets rewound back to the beginning of the day. Like if people started playing with reality, playing with time, that would be very destabilizing, right? But see, that doesn't happen because the laws of physics applies to everybody, and there's a universal standard in the physical universe itself. Okay. Creating that degree of stability and balance. If people could fly faster than jets, again, it would be very unstable. And if people could change reality, it would become very unstable. But that's not the case. And so when people say, go touch grass, go outside, go get back in touch with nature, that's because there's a degree of stability, tranquility in nature, in the physical world that doesn't exist in the digital world because there is no shared network state, because there's no verifiability, there's no truth layer. Okay, next part of this. Bots. It's debatable. This is from April 16th, 2025, so months ago. AI-driven bad bots now make up 51% of traffic, overtaking human visitors for the first time. Some sources will say 20%, some will say 30, some will say 50, some will say a little bit more than 50. But once we get to the 20, 30, 40% range, at that point, it just kind of opens a big can of worms, and we should only expect, as long as it's on Web2, we should only expect the number of bots relative to humans, the bot to human ratio should continue to grow as long as we're on Web2, because it's very difficult to fix this problem on Web2 because you have to build in new systems to prevent these different things, and you already have tons of systems and tons of complexity on Web2 to begin with. So, the physical universe governed by physics, the digital universe, anything goes. Okay. Um, Anything goes. There's no clear rules or laws. There's no transparency into anything. Followers and engagement can be bought. Reality, or the perception of reality, can be altered whenever the people who control the platform want. And so that creates a very unstable and chaotic environment, which is what we see on social media. Social apps are run by algorithms that can change anytime, and the companies could be selectively promoting certain accounts and content while suppressing others, and we would have no way of knowing. No transparency, verifiability, or consistency. The large majority of the main public conversations can easily be manufactured and managed. More important topics, the most important topics, can be easily suppressed, creating the illusion that they don't matter. Because again, one of the most detrimental preconceived notions in the world is that whatever the things that are being covered the most and getting the most attention, that those are the most important things. This is the most damaging mindset or assumption to make imaginable. It'll keep you locked in a propaganda cycle, psyop cycle for years. Reinforcing. So, more important topics can be suppressed, creating the illusion that they don't matter. Reinforcing extreme or simplified narratives and messaging. And this happens all the time in the crypto space. Digital IDs, CBDCs, oh God, AWS is down. All surface level bullshit. Nobody actually wants to go to the next level to talk about conversation. So, reinforcing extreme or oversimplified narratives and messaging, not the valuable information underlying where all the solutions are. So, what looks like consensus can easily be manufactured. That's why people think it's the most important things happening, is because they view the reach that it's getting, the attention that it's getting, as social consensus, that it is the most important thing happening. And so, repetition and curated information create a delusional sense of certainty. I want to say that again. Repetition and curated information create a delusional sense of certainty. Roughly 50% of the accounts on social media are likely bots. And it doesn't even matter if it's 20 or 30 or 40. Again, once we get into the 20, 30 range, once it hits 50%, I mean, it's like everybody's online reality can be gamed and manipulated very, very easily. That's what's happening in the entire crypto space. Promoting degeneracy creates a feedback loop leading to more degeneracy. And so if you just think about, if you genuinely believe that we're moving to a new web over the next however many years, over the next 10, 15, 20 years, that would probably be one of the more important things happening, especially if the financial system is tied into that, wouldn't you say? Because that's universal. That applies to every single person on earth, right? Different political topics really are just mostly relevant to that country, right? But all you would have to do with these, there's only a handful of social platforms that we all use, is take the most important topics and flag all of those, flag every single account talking about them, turn their volume down, and then just pick up at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and just promote those things to the moon. That's how easy it would be. And it's even that much more easy when you only have a handful of social platforms. If there was 100 different social platforms and it was a very competitive environment on social media, different story. But it's not. There's a handful. All they have to do is take the most important topics and turn the volume down. And it will create the perception in people's minds that those things don't matter. They don't matter because nobody cares about them enough to actually talk about them on social media to any decent degree, not realizing that the very social media centralized, heavily managed social media platforms we are can easily just tune these entire things down and promote other irrelevant topics that then people believe are the most important things happening. And so if you look at the irrelevant topics, the circle represents the size of the reach that it's getting. Okay, this is how much reach that it's getting. And then the most important topics can easily you can just turn the volume down on them. And so, guys, just think about it. Think about the recent example with Amazon Web Services. Tons of, like, all the shit posting and the virtue signal and engagement farming about Amazon Web Services. Think about how much reach those got. That being said, we've been talking about this very issue for years. And not one time has that conversation ever got a lot of attention. So we're actually talking about the solution to this very problem in great depth, laying out a real software stack that can create a solution for this. It's getting absolutely no coverage. It's getting no reach on this very social media platform. But the second that the problem surfaces, all types of shit posting and just worthless engagement farming gets boosted to the moon, right? So the problem gets boosted to the moon. The solution gets suppressed for years. And another thing too, it's like, look at Tom Lee said this about Ethereum. It doesn't fucking matter. No, Tom Lee doesn't know dick from shit when it comes to software systems. And so it's like all these irrelevant mainstream. Oh, this person said this, and then and it just blows up. All this irrelevant nonsense gets boosted to the moon. But yet, the most important topics, the real solutions, solving real problems, addressing all of these very things that these hysterical shit posters are going viral for, addressing these very problems gets no reach, but all of these posts get tons of reach. The Fed, you remember how much, think about how much still, it's like, why are people even still talking about the Fed all the time? And Gary Gensler, remember that, guys? Remember how much coverage Gary Gensler used to get? What did his entire time in office ultimately amount to? Nothing, absolutely nothing, but engagement farming and shit posting from people in this entire industry. All it was just bullshit spam. Gary Gensler's bad, All it was fucking spam. Meanwhile, having conversations about the future of all this tech, no reach. Getting hysterical about Gary Gensler, you go viral. That's the game. You see the game? Okay. CBDC hysteria. Now it's digital ID hysteria. See, first it was CBDC hysteria. Now it's digital ID hysteria. They're not even talking about the systems behind the underlying topic that they're discussing. There's no substance to it. It's all just surface level hysteria. While the actual substance filled conversations about the broader technology get absolutely no reach. But this comes back to the perception. Whatever people think, whatever people see as getting the most coverage, they believe that's the most important thing happening. Because the coverage itself, the reach that it gets, again, 50% of the entire accounts could be bots. Not only that 50% could be bots, The social media companies and platforms themselves are heavily controlled and centralized, and they can decide arbitrarily. Two or three executives can arbitrarily decide these are the things that are going to go viral. These are the things that are going to get attention. These are the things that don't need to go viral. These are the things that don't need to get attention. But to the average person, to the 3 billion, right? This goes back to the conversation. 3,000 people can control and manipulate the reality for 3 billion people solely through this mechanism right here and some others, but this is really the main mechanism. And so for the average person, for the average one of the 3 billion people, whatever they see blowing up on social media, that's what becomes most important to them every single time. All the things, think about all the things that get 10x or 100x more coverage than the new web, because the new web can easily just be flagged. All conversations, all accounts that are covering it, it can be flagged, and they can just turn the volume down very easily and just turn the volume up on whatever other bullshit and degeneracy that's being pushed out there. So this works in layers or levels. So for instance, I think it's like this across the entire web, but I think it's like this even on a smaller scale in the crypto space. Because think about all the irrelevant nonsense that gets promoted in the crypto space, but none of the serious conversations about the future of all this tech, about real solutions, that gets no coverage, right? The problems get 100x more reach than the solutions. Each silo platform becomes its own digital universe with their own truth. And it could even be universes within universes, just based on what the algorithm is promoting to you. Two different people. I'm in the ICP ecosystem. Somebody else watching this video is in the ICP ecosystem, but we could be getting flooded with different types of propaganda outside of ICP. And so you have a bunch of different fragmented truths that are built on nothing, that are just built on propaganda and psyops. Monetizing, okay. The social media company, they're monetizing and they're optimizing for attention, not truth. I want to say that again, very important. The social media companies, they are monetizing and optimizing for attention, not truth. Guys, truth oftentimes, like, it clears up so much of the hysteria and the nonsense that in many ways it's not good for business. Because all these irrelevant conversations that are creating all this attention and all this hysteria, just the raw, unfiltered truth, could just cause all of that to evaporate. But again, it's not good for business at this point in time. And so if you just think about the recent example with TikTok, the thought that your feed and the information that you see would drastically change based on the incentives of the owners of the application highlights the problem, especially when you only have a handful of apps and it's very difficult to compete on Web2. Why is that? Because of all the complexity and all the bullshit that comes along with Web2 and the monopolistic structure that has been set up in our current world of technology. So think about it, guys. Anyone covered, let's see, there's 5, 6, 7, 10 different main social media companies. Okay. How hard would this be? Anyone covering XYZ reduce their exposure by 70%, flag all of their accounts. This be done algorithmically, very easily. Flag that topic and just reduce their exposure by 70%, 80%, 90%, whatever you have to do. On top of that, and you wouldn't even really need to do that if you did the second part effectively. Anyone covering ABC, ABC are all the irrelevant topics. ABC is all the clickbait and all the nonsense and all the hysteria and all the worthless conversations about nothing. Increase their exposure by 300% and boost all of their posts. This can be done very easily through AI and algorithms. The biggest and most destructive misconception online, whatever topics are trending, are the most important things happening. It's the same way people look at the mainstream media. Whatever the mainstream media is covering, these are the most important things that are happening on Earth. Nothing could be further from the truth. Prominent thought leaders can be socially engineered, and this happens a lot in the crypto space. Prominent thought leaders can easily be socially engineered and manufactured through fake accounts and fake engagement, shaping public perception around an illusion. And so this just gets into, given there's only a handful of social platforms, again, everybody can be color coded, everybody can be flagged and tagged based on your profile and what you're covering. And if what you're covering doesn't need to get a lot of coverage right now, you can just be flagged and turned down. And if somebody else is willing to just act like an hysterical lunatic online and just cover bullshit and fill the feed with spam, it kind of seems like they want that right now. They can just flag, yeah, just boost it all to the moon. And even if that wasn't the situation, people would just buy all their following anyways. So there's so many different avenues for manipulation and for the distortion of reality on these platforms. And so implications, you have delusion at scale all over the world in a global mental health crisis. People are becoming detached from reality, and you have more control and power for the people who own the platforms. And the people who are using the platforms are just subjected to tons and tons and tons of psychological warfare. Normal people are subjected to endless cycles of propaganda. This hurts innovation and society at large because the best and the brightest do not rise to prominence. The people who will do whatever they have to do, the people who are willing to pimp themselves out in any way, shape, form, fashion, they ultimately win because they trade any morals for influence and popularity. Society and culture is not allowed, this very big problem, to develop organically. Culture and society has been co-opted because the systems that we use are heavily controlled, managed, and manipulated. Society and culture is not allowed to develop organically because of hidden algorithms and agendas covertly shaping reality, society, and culture. Division, hostility, and degeneracy can be programmed into the platforms, causing societal and cultural decay, which is where we are right now. Back to the conversation about all the bots. And this is what social media is turning into. Yeah. And it's just going to get worse as long as we stay on Web2. But the shared network state, removing all the loopholes and moving to a system where we have the digital equivalent to physics. There's a universal set of laws and logic and consensus and ownership and verifiability that's equal for every single person. Some third party just can't start propagandizing my feed whenever they want to because I can just cut that off. I can silo myself completely away from that. A unified framework with a shared network state, verifiability, real consensus, not fake consensus, not manufactured consensus, real consensus, predictability, and all the loopholes removed creates a digital physics online, restoring balance and order to a chaotic, manipulated digital environment or reality. Fake influence, engagement, and manufactured consensus is gone, eliminating the majority of what we see today. That's the majority of what you see on social media at this point. More and more people are asking, are we living in a simulation? But why are they asking that? Because of their experience on social media, because their perception of reality is being shaped by their online experience, not their experience in the physical world. Go touch grass is a common saying solely because it helps people reconnect with objective reality and get away from all the manipulation of the web-based reality of the digital universe. The physical world and the laws of the universe, physics, creates balance, stability, and an equal playing field for everybody, at least on that level. Without a universal set of laws, code, and logic, disorder and chaos online and in people's perceived realities will only get worse. That's all I have for this video. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. This will be an ongoing series over time. Please let me know if you have any thoughts, not financial advice. Take care. Have a good day. I'll see you in the next video.